our true self is in some level connected to God. It's our spirit, and we can have fuller connections. We can have deeper connections based on our relationship with God and how we nurture that. And yet, that spark in us originally has some level of connection. And so certainly we want to grow in becoming more and more astute with that connection. So as we clear out the other stuff, we get a pure connection there. And, Jesus talks about it a lot in the sense that he talks about when our heart has become hardened, it disconnects us from other people and God. But blessed are the pure in heart, right? It's about cleansing, for they shall see God. So it's when we doing the wounded child protector work, it actually is clearing stuff out so I can have a pure connection. Now, we all may verbalize it a bit differently depending on our spiritual development. Certainly, us being Christian, connected to the Holy Spirit, Jesus, and so forth. But there's one of the teachings in Christianity that says the Spirit is poured out on all flesh. So it's not really saying it's only upon a certain group. No, all flesh has access to the Spirit of God on some level. Do I understand it all? No, but I just know that's part of it. So that being said, when we do the clearing and we clear things out, I want to talk a little bit about decision making, because oftentimes we get confronted with big decisions that we need to make. And that could be as simple as, do I go to this wedding or do I not go to this wedding that I've been invited to? Do I stay in this relationship or do I not stay in this relationship? Do I pursue this job? Do I not pursue this job? Do I, all those are very big, impactful decisions, and we all have to make them. Well, we kind of make them spontaneously as best we can as they come forth. But there's a theologian, Thomas Aquinas, who was probably one of the greatest theologians in the Western Church. And I remember when I was studying moral theology, I don't remember much about that, but I do remember this, is that he taught that a prayerfully informed conscience is supreme over any rule, any regulation, anything. What he taught was
You need to say that again, because that's really, really important.
Prayerfully and informed, or prayerfully and educated conscience. So when we talk about conscience, we're talking about the true self, right? And when our true self has a major decision to make, the two things you need to do is it needs to become prayerfully and it needs to become informed or educated. Well, let's just use this for example. This won't apply to Barbara Chan, our friend in Hong Kong, but everybody else here it applies, is we have a presidential election coming up. And it's a real big deal. There's a lot of stuff flying around. There's a lot of craziness, lots of thoughts, a lot of animosity. And you need to make a decision to vote, which I hope you do vote, right? Are you ready for a journey of self-discovery and healing? Introducing A Roadmap to the Soul, a practical guide to love, compassion, and inner peace. This book offers practical tools and insights to navigate your inner landscape, release emotional blockages, and embrace your authentic self. Start your transformational journey today by getting your copy now. See the link in the description. And now, back to the lesson. And so I can tell you my beliefs, I can hear your beliefs and so forth, but what's not nearly as important as all that is your prayerfully informed conscience. So you need to inform your conscience as best you can, try to understand from reputable people, that commenters or whatever, about what they're really saying, what Kamala Harris is saying, what Donald Trump's saying, all that. Get as much information as you can and get educated on it. And then secondly, it needs to become part of your prayer life, right? It needs to be through your spiritual connection. What are you leading me to do? What are you directing me to do? And And in that partnership of the information, education, and the prayerfully informed, you're obliged to follow that, regardless of what your spouse or your friend or your cousin or whomever says. You're obliged to follow that. That's a prayerfully informed conscience. What's so important is that as we grow, we initially need to be, our conscience and our ability to make decisions is based on rules, which are very important. But that's when we're in a spiritual childhood. Thou shalt not do this. Okay. Thou shalt not do this. And it's very black and white. But as we grow into adulthood, we need to move past that becoming our only regulation, is the rules. And we need to grow into a prayerfully informed conscience. So, if I look at Jesus as a model, Jesus followed lots and lots of rules, but he also broke lots and lots of rules. Mm. And so what was the difference? Well, if he was prayerfully informed with his connection to go ahead and do a miracle on a Sabbath, that's what he did, even if it had backlash, because he was following a prayerfully informed conscience. Now, our goal is to clear out the stuff, because the wounded child belief system, the protector belief systems can all get muddled up and keep us in situations that perhaps God is calling us not to do, or our spirit or our true self's calling us not to do. And we get consumed by that and compromise ourselves. So there is a point where in our own development, we're called to move into a greater place of boldness. Mm-hmm. We're called to move into a place of self-assertion with your prayerfully informed conscience to make decisions and to follow that. It's interesting. One of the things that Thomas Aquinas taught, which really blew me away, because I grew up Catholic, and Catholic has lots of rules. You know what I mean? It's like you follow the rules, you do this, you do this, you do this. And so, but Thomas Aquinas said, he was talking about sin, or in psychological language, unhealthy choices, right? He said, if the church has a rule and you don't follow the rule in your spiritual immaturity, then it's a sin, right? But once you move into spiritual adulthood, if the church has a rule and your prayerfully informed conscience says something else, you are obliged to follow your prayerfully informed conscience. And if you don't, you're actually sinning. You're saying, Dean, I might be sinning if I don't disobey this rule? Yes, if it's prayerfully informed. And that there's a level that we're all called to as we move into adulthood on a true self level, is that starts to become our true north. Some of our greatest moments and some of our greatest victories have been because we followed a true self nudge that was unconventional. Are you ready to embark on a journey of personal transformation and inner healing? Our intensive online coaching program is designed for individuals and couples seeking to reconnect with their true selves. Dive into our lessons, activations, live coaching calls, and educational readings tailored to uncover limiting beliefs, healing emotional wounds, and to cultivate a life filled with authenticity. Transform yourself, transform your relationships. It's time to transform you. See the description below to see how to join Transform You.